Hello, hello. Welcome back, Endo warriors and supporters. This is K&K Real Talk, and we are at episode 18. I almost can't even believe it. If you haven't met me yet, my name is Kenny King. I'm a holistic health and wellness coach as well as transformation life coach. And I'm here with my fabulous and lovely co-host, Kristen McCroby, who is the founder of Endometriosis and Me. We're talking about a very important subject today that's near and dear to both of our hearts. So, Kristen, take it away and dive right in.
So today what we're talking about is something that's been talked about a lot recently in just like the media and things, and that's FOMO, fear or feelings of missing out. And why that's a big problem now is because of social media. You can see and people post everything. So you really do feel like you're missing out on things, like say someone has a wedding and you couldn't make it, you're seeing all the beautiful wedding photos and thinking about all of the fun times that you missed and all of the laughing and good times that people had without you. And I find that this is a very, very common anxiety in the chronic illness, invisible illness, chronic pain community, because oftentimes we are missing events because we're in pain or we're ill or we don't have the energy. Like, we're really having to pick and choose the events that we want to go to and the things that we participate in, because thinking back to like the battery method or the spoon theory, things like that, is you only have so many spoons or so much energy in your battery for the day. And sometimes even things that you want to do don't make it into the day. I know personally, I've missed tons of events. I was supposed to be a bridesmaid in a good friend's wedding, and I kind of gave this anxiety to myself. I had so much anxiety building up to being in front of everyone at a wedding, in a wedding. I've never been on a plane, so I was going to have to fly for my first time and fly alone for my first time, which for me, I have a lot of anxiety, and I've had a lot of anxiety my whole life. So I literally could not bring myself to get on the plane by myself. Literally, my thoughts were, I'm going to have an anxiety attack. I'm going to end up like throwing up on the person beside me, and I'm going to be in the air, and there's like no way to calm me down. And you really, like, you work things up in your head so much sometimes that's what makes you miss the event, is you've just, like, it's called catastrophization. You're literally going to the worst possible situation in your head and just feeling like that's going to happen, so you're avoiding the situation completely because you have fear that something bad's going to happen, or you're going to be trapped out in another province or state and not be able to get home, and just like things like that. Sometimes it's the pain and the disease that's making you miss the event, but sometimes it's your anxiety then giving you this anxiety. It's really a vicious cycle with FOMO. Like, you want to say yes and be a yes person and say yes to everything and be at every event, but in all honesty, we can't be everywhere. We can't do everything. So choose what's best for your life, and if they're a good friend, they'll understand that you can't make it or have to reschedule or whatever it may be.
Yeah, and I love the way that you explained that, because so many things come into play related to this, whereas a lot of us have additional conditions like anxiety and depression, and so there's this layering effect of conflict. Sometimes the thing that holds us back is we're in pain, or the fear that the pain or bloating like endobelly or the excessive bleeding, that something's going to show up at a time when it's the most inconvenient. And so sometimes we feel like we're missing out because we're just trying to do damage control, whether it's before the damage is actually there, or we're just trying to make sure we manage it or not put ourselves in a compromising situation where we don't feel in control. Could you do me a favor though, and for those watching or listening who've never heard of the spoon theory or the battery method, could you just kind of explain a little bit more about those, or at least one of them, so that because I know a lot of our listeners may not have heard of that before.
So a quick rundown, basically. The story behind the spoon theory is there are two women at a restaurant having lunch or whatever, dinner, and the woman is trying to explain chronic illness to her friend and how she can only do so much because she only has so much in her. So she grabs the spoons from several tables and she says, like, these spoons are my spoons for the day. I get up and I wash my hair and take a shower and brush my teeth, and that's 2 spoons. I go to work and that's like 5 spoons, and then you only have 3 spoons left, and you're picking and choosing where to use your spoons. So the spoons are energy. So back to like the battery, I like the battery like analogy better, just because you think of your phone battery or the battery on your laptop, and it has the bars of battery and it has so much. And sometimes you only wake up with so much of your battery, not even a full charge after you've slept. So you have so many bars of battery or energy that you can use throughout the day, and you have to choose where to use that energy. Like, I don't like to say normal, because what's normal really? But someone who isn't ill has the energy to do everything in their day. They get up, they take care of their kids, take the kids to school, to go to work, whatever you do in your day. But someone with chronic illness doesn't wake up with the same amount of energy as someone who is well. They are already tired when they wake up, or they're in pain, they're sluggish. And you have to decide what in your day is going to take your energy, rather than doing everything. Like, you may have in your head, you're going to clean the house, you're going to take a bath, you're going to read your book, but you really only do one of those things. And that's okay. It's okay to pick and choose what's best for you to do, and really what's important. Think of it as what's most important, and do that, and then go down the list. And not everything's going to get done, and that's okay, because you'll wake up tomorrow and maybe you'll have a full battery. So I do like to use those. I know the spoon theory is more popular, but I like the battery, just like kind of thinking of ourselves as a robot, and we only have so much battery to give, and then we just shut down.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I think for those who are not familiar, the battery makes more sense up front, like just listening. For those of you who are visual, perhaps looking up a great infographic or Googling the spoon theory, you're going to find images so that you can see that. So you can kind of look at the battery method or the spoon theory. But it is, it is a really good tool to recognize that we do, sometimes we wake up at different levels, and having that self-awareness means we can give ourselves the grace to honor what our body needs and what we might need emotionally and physically and mentally. That's where I was trying to go. In all kind of categories. And the more self-aware we are, the better we can sort of manage that energy. So that might actually be a future topic that we focus on. How do we prioritize and be really productive with our energy, especially if we wake up and we've got like a quarter charge on our battery. But let's go, so let's go back to the fear of missing out, feelings of missing out. And I think, for me, this has been something that is hugely disappointing. And I know a lot of you understand when you're just wiped out and taken out of work, or, you know, maybe you were working and then for me, it was always the disasters would happen while I was at work. Not always, but a lot of the times. And I would be MacGyvering a situation, trying to not make it look like there's a dire emergency. Because, you know, with endo, an emergency looks like somebody needs to call an ambulance half the time. It can be just a bloodbath, and it can be, there's so many different things. You could be crumbled down onto the floor, not able to be upright. I have been physically carried out of my workplace before. This was years ago. And it was just, I remember that I felt good enough I was able to manage. I happened to have Clorox wipes within my reach, but I worked at a bank. So there's that. And I couldn't get to the bathroom, but I was near a phone. And so I was able to call my boss and say, please come here to me. And so she came to me and I asked her for help, and she, you know, so I had somebody come and pick me up, but I did have to be physically carried out of work. And so, so then more anxieties begin to build, where sometimes you're not having a dramatic emergency, but it might feel like it. And then there's suddenly a fear of doing anything or going anywhere, because what if, you know, or if there's an activity planned and you're really excited, and then the whole pain factor. So if you want to do a sport, if you want to go swimming, like I was really impressed not that long ago, where on day one of my cycle, it was a pool party, but it was like a mastermind group of peers, but it was a pool party. It was day one of my cycle. Let me just tell you, never, ever, ever, ever in my life has this been a possibility for me. And I went and I couldn't believe it. I was actually able to get in the pool. That's brand new. I've done so much work on my healing journey over the last couple of years that's made that possible for me. But it doesn't mean that I wasn't internally like this, like nervous. I was so nervous, but I thought, this isn't going to hold me back any longer. And I'm going to try, and, you know, and I'll just be, I'm just going to try, because that's all we can do at some point. So I think the first step here, I think the key, because you know how I am, I want to go straight to solutions. I want to be like solution based, because I don't want to live in the stuck. But it's really, really important to allow ourselves to feel how we feel. When we're afraid of going to an event, or afraid of missing out on an event, where if we're afraid of not going to an event because how somebody might feel about it, if they get their feelings hurt because they don't understand what we're going through, if we're afraid of going to the event because of how it might be totally ruined for us. And so I think there's this space that we need to give ourselves the grace to just feel however the hell we feel. So if it's anger, if it's frustration, if we're pissed off at the world, pissed off at endo, pissed off at whoever scheduled that event on that day, or, you know, whatever it is, I say, let's recognize that this is totally and completely normal. Like, it is normal to not feel normal. It's normal to not be okay. It's normal to have anxiety. It's normal to deal with depression when you have a chronic condition. It's normal to be unsure. It's normal to feel sad. And so first, let yourself feel that and let that be okay. Like, write it out. Play a song that helps you cry. Like, get it out. Like, let yourself feel it. Cry, scream, punch pillows, get a punching bag for your bedroom or the garage or something, you know, like, give yourself, and it's okay to sit down and punch a punching bag. FYI, I've done it before, so you can do that. You don't have to be standing. I know sometimes standing isn't an option when it comes to the different levels of endo and how we're feeling. So I'm not saying it's necessary to necessarily bounce around and create, you know, trauma and create a flare up or make a flare up worse because we're being too physically active. So honoring wherever you need to be. But first, just take a minute and let yourself vent, cry, yell, whatever, on your own with somebody else. And if somebody's trying to fix the problem, because I know a lot of our endo warriors get frustrated with this, and I do understand, because they even get frustrated with me when I'm trying to offer solutions, and people are like, I just want to be mad. I
It's so
really, yeah, and I do get it. I do, because sometimes I just want to be mad too. Um, so it's okay. Give yourself that space, write it out, but just don't live there, because it does make it worse. It makes the physical symptoms worse. So, and it's just like, how did you say that word? Catastrophization?
catastrophization, yeah.
Catastrophization. I love it. By the way, I've never heard that before, obviously. And it makes total sense, when you put it together. I'm like, oh, yeah, how many times have I done that in my life? But I've never heard the actual term. So I love having a term now to use that with. But yeah, we create this layer upon layer of these anxieties, and these things, when we allow them to be true for us for the long term, we hold ourselves back from having a better quality of life, because we're adding stress to our bodies, we're adding more inflammation, which means our symptoms are then reacting to that and oftentimes getting worse. So let's recognize that it's normal for us to feel this way. Then let's let ourselves feel this way for a minute. Feel the fear, fear the feeling, you know what I mean. Feel all the junk that's coming up. Name it, cry, write it out, journal, listen to whatever kind of music either helps you like express, paint, color, whatever you do, like whatever you can do to express it and get it out. They've even got these places, I don't know if we talked about this, but they've got places popping up now that you can go and smash stuff.
Yeah, like Wreck-It rooms or whatever. Oh my God, I want to do one.
They've got computers and all kinds of things, and you go in with like a bat or something and you just start smashing stuff. And I'm not, and they've got like Groupons for it too, but I kid you not, one of these days I'm gonna get my husband one of those, because we always joke, because whenever he gets mad at something, he's like, I'm gonna smash it.
How fun though. How fun, and how much release would you get from that? Oh my God.
And then you don't go around punching people.
There you go. And like it's garbage anyways, so
Yeah.
like a huge tube monitor or something, that would be really fun to smash.
Yes, I love it. I haven't tried it yet, but so whatever it is, to get the stuff out, let yourself feel it, let yourself get it out. If you want to feel sorry for yourself for a little while, feel sorry for yourself for a little while. Then try something else. One of the things that I love to do, and exercise I love to do a lot, is consider, what experience do I actually want? Because what we're feeling like we're missing out on, it's not so much the thing as much as what we believe that thing will give us. So let me give you an example. You were bringing up a wedding. I think a wedding is a fantastic example. You're invited to a wedding, or you're meant to be in a wedding, and you're not sure if you can pull it off for a number of reasons. And so if the answer is no, a lot of times what might come up, like we might feel really sad because we love that person and we want to be there for that person. We want to be there on the day. We want to, or maybe we said no to showing, like there's different ways we can do this. Like, am I saying no to going at all, or am I saying no to being a bridesmaid because of the level of investment and energy has to go into that by way of money and the parties you do before and all the different things? Like, is that too much? And so what experience would I want from that? Okay, well, normally we want to share in the love, be a witness to the love for the people that that we're excited for or not excited for, but we're supporting. And we often want to feel connected. And so we want that sense of community. Maybe we want to dance, whatever. And then it's figuring out, how can I have that with that person, even if I can't be in the wedding, or even if I can't be there? And so what might this look like? Okay, so I've had friends before that I love and adore, and maybe I haven't been able to get to their wedding, or they haven't been able to get to mine. And what that might look like is, okay, how can I show him or her, whoever, like your friend, how much you love them and support them and feel that intimacy and connection without necessarily having to be in the wedding or having to be there. And where you change the conversation. I love you so much. I am so excited for you. And I want to be there with you. However, because of, and be honest, whatever your true fears are, I'm very concerned that if I do this, this is what will happen, either to my physical body, whatever, but these are these may be consequences, and I'm very concerned that that'll take away from your experience, from my experience. So here's my solution, or here's what I'd love to do. Now, sometimes some families choose to actually stream their the actual ceremony privately. So you can do that. You can do a Facebook group for a wedding and stream it privately to where people that can't be there can see it, and vice versa. You could request that. They may not want to do that or may not know, but you know, there's so many options. Or you can do something one-on-one with that person, with that friend, together prior to in celebration of their big day. So it's generally, we want that sense of connection, or we want a sense of freedom. So maybe we want to go ride a roller coaster, and our body being jerked around all the time, it's not the right time in our cycle to do that, or ever. And so maybe it's like, okay, well, what feeling do I get from that? What experience am I going for? So if you go back to that question, and maybe the experience is, I just like feeling like the wind and that freedom, and maybe a little bit of nerves. And so then we discover, okay, how could I get that in a way that's less destructive to my body? And the answer to that might be ziplining, because you might get similar experience, but if you're doing the control one where you can slow yourself down, you have control at how much you're being jerked around. So you get the wind, you get the freedom, you get to really enjoy that, and maybe a little bit of nerves if you're afraid of heights at all, but your body's not being, thrown around. So, and those might be really silly examples, but I'm trying to give practical examples of just like, when we feel like we're missing out, let's kind of take off the top layer of what the activity is and look beneath the surface and see what it is we really want, so that we can find a way to create that for ourselves in the present time that's not going to cause harm to our bodies. So if it's, man, I wish I could go out with my friends, what if your friends could come over? Or if you don't have a place that can accommodate your friends, maybe you ask one of your friends, hey, can we have a get together at one of your houses? Maybe everybody brings something. And if you're like, I really miss dancing, but I don't want to be up too much, I don't want to be out at like a bar or club, throw on YouTube. I've had a dance party in my living room, do it all the time. You can throw on YouTube or Spotify or Pandora or whatever is your thing, and play music. And if you're feeling good, you can try to dance a little bit, but you're in a private residence. You can also sit down, you can rest, you can relax. So there's tons of things that we can do, but sometimes we limit ourselves because we get stuck at the place of, I'm missing out. This is ruining my life. I hate endo. Does that make sense?
Total sense. And I love that you said the live streaming. I didn't really think of that until you said it. And I've actually been to, it's not as beautiful as a wedding, but it was a funeral. And I'm in Canada, and many of this person's friends are from Canada. And he had gone to Australia after college, and I had gone to high school with him, and he passed away in Australia. So they live streamed the funeral, and I got to see his mom talk and stuff, and it was really beautiful. That even just seeing it through a live stream, and I watched it later, I don't think I watched it live, just being able to see that you still get to be a part of it even though you weren't there. Mm-hmm. And you can say something like, reach out to the bride and groom or mother if it's a funeral, and give them your support. Even if you can't be at the event, you can still support the event.
Yes, we are in a day and age where if we're willing to get creative and open our minds and be patient with ourselves, we can oftentimes find solutions to any challenge or problem. And when we can't, that's when we bring somebody else in. But I encourage you that if, you know, if the people that we're turning to are a bunch of like misery loves company, negative Nancy naysayers, that might not serve you the best. You may need to upgrade, not saying you got to leave anybody behind, but paying attention to the energy that's surrounding you. The people that are solution oriented are the people who are willing to be warriors and to continue to fight and to continue to try new things. And that's where the solutions, the creativity, all these things come from. There's so many opportunities. And so the examples I gave are examples that there were some areas within our control. So it's important to be aware what's in my control and what's not in my control. And when there's something that's not in your control, when you come from the mindset of what experience am I going for? What do I want from this? What do I believe this will give me? When we come from that mindset, we have the opportunity to discover how we can attain things, even if it's out of our control. I'd love to give an example, but this is a touchy example. So I just want to give, a bit of a warning that this could be a very touchy example. So I'm not trying to be insensitive whatsoever, but an example I would hate to miss out on would be related to having a baby or having a family, like building a family. This is an area that we can't skate over because it's so important. And a couple of things that I've found are sometimes when we have this I believed since I was like 10, I was just born to be a mother. Like almost every decision I've ever made, like I was like, I'm not doing drugs because no, I'm going to be a mom one day. I have to have a college degree because I'm going to be a mom one day. Like every single decision that I made had to do with, well, my kids, like my unborn kids. So, and even though I assist women who are on that fertility journey, I got to a point when it was actually, I had struggled and I had been trying to conceive for years and years. And then finally, when I got to a point where my body was like, oh, I think we can actually do this now, I freaked out a little bit. And I was like, oh, I don't know anymore. Like, I think I might be past that. But what had happened for me, and I'm not saying this is everybody at all, but I've spoken with, we're going to be interviewing him on one of these episodes. I've spoken with a functional medical doctor who focuses on endometriosis and fertility, and he does acupuncture. And he says there's a lot of times his patients get pregnant and then freak out because they didn't actually, it's like sometimes women grow up just thinking this is what I'm supposed to want. And they don't ever really go into that in-depth awareness of what does being pregnant mean to me? What does being a mother mean to me? So one of the things that's really important where we come to peace, or where we have the opportunity to come to peace, is what am I afraid of missing out on if I don't get pregnant or don't have a baby? Or if I do have a baby, but I might not have a second one. And really exploring what it means to us, because we still have that choice of going, what experience am I wanting? What is important about this to me? And once we get to those answers, once we kind of peel back the layers, because Shrek and Donkey totally had it, like we are like onions, people. A lot of times we want unconditional love, or we want to nurture and to be a part of a child's development, or we want, like there's all these different little things. And so then we look at the thing that we value the most and then ask ourselves, how can I bring that into my life now? I like how I just made that one word, my life. How can I bring that into my life now and still continue the journey of, if you're in the middle of trying to conceive, if you're on that journey, still continuing that path, but also giving yourself the opportunity to have what you want. Because the truth is you can impact the lives of children right now. You can be a shaper of young minds right now. You can nurture other human beings right now. So, and experience unconditional love right now. Go ahead, Kristen. I know you're about to.
I'd like to add something that's close to my heart about children, and even if you, and just like nurturing children that are not your own. I, as a child of a single father, had a big sister, and the Big Sister, Big Brother program, I love. I think that's amazing because my mother, as I had mentioned before, I was on drugs and stuff like that, so she was never really in the picture. She was kind of like in and out a little, but not really, so I never really had that female influence. So I love big sister, little sister relationship because you're getting that influence from someone that maybe isn't your mother, but they still want to make an impact on your life. And I really think that they did. I mean, I learned a lot from having I'm from Kingston originally in Canada, Ontario, Canada, and we have a big university, which is Queen's University. And generally it's women from Queen's or maybe St. Lawrence, which is a college, who are like coming in to be the big sister and be the mentor. And I think that's great because you're getting an educated woman who is not necessarily the age of your mother, is younger than your mother, so you feel like you can like relate with them more. Because not only did I not have a mother in my life really, is I didn't have any siblings either. So it's really nice that you can reach out to your community. And I definitely encourage everyone to reach out to their community and explore the things in your community. And there can be things that help you. You don't need to, like, there are always alternatives. You don't need to miss out. Like, for the example of women who, or girls who don't have a mother figure in your life, getting a big sister or something along those lines is an alternative. I mean, it's not the same relationship and the love that you would get and like the blood bond, but it's still a female influence who can help you.
Yes, and I'm so glad you brought that up because our family gets to be the people that we choose to love us and support us and be our, our rock or our encourager, a whole mix of things. And I was discussing this when we did a wine and wellness night recently, and because I've had many conversations with people who say, is it wrong to just like cut out my actual blood family, like my blood relatives? Like, does that make me cruel? And it's like, there comes a point when you're young, you don't get a choice. When you get older, you get to choose who gets to be in your circle and who has more of your time and your attention. So you get to create what you want right now, even if it isn't the version of what you expected. You get to create relationships and bonds and connection and unconditional love right now, even if it's not in maybe a way that you thought it was going to be for you. Now, I do want to really, really, laser in and say, I am not minimizing the confusion, the stress, the pain of anybody who's on a journey, their fertility journey, and trying to conceive. I went through years of this process, so I am not trying to minimize anybody's pain or say stop trying or it's not worth it. None of that. Just simply considering some of this self-awareness and exploring what is going on beneath the surface, and not that you're trying to replace anything, but build up what you want right now and surround yourself with what you want now, the experiences. How can I experience what I want in my life now? and having that mindset, more and more opportunities open up, possibilities open up. You may meet more people. You may develop a best friend that you just wouldn't even have any idea that you, I mean, I know I went from feeling like an alien and like my people left me. I know I was left here on this planet, to finally, over the past year and a half, finally finding like a home, and like I have a tribe, like I have people now. And so I'm like, oh, maybe I do belong here. I always joke about, I've even told my family this, like, man, if I didn't look so much like my parents, I would totally think I was adopted. Like, I don't think I belong here. I don't think these are my people. Not because they're terrible or anything, but I've always been so unique compared to my immediate surroundings. I was very, very unique. So that made it very difficult for me to feel belonging and connection and safe in my environment. And those are literally like the cornerstones of every decision that we make. So if you've ever asked yourself, why am I this way? Or why did I do that? Or why can't I do that? Or something like that. Normally the answer has something to do with love, safety, and belonging. Because we believe that if we keep we try to keep ourselves from losing it. So, and that's where we stay stuck. And sometimes, guys, I'm just going to be totally for real. Sometimes where we feel safe and like we belong is in our misery and pain. It's familiar. So when people say, have you tried this, or have you done that, or have you considered nutrition or whatever, and we normally want to be like, you're an idiot, you're an idiot, you're an idiot, like we want to have it bounce off of us, because the last thing we want to do is create actual change, because it's so comfortable to be here drowning in my misery. And good gracious, guys, I've been living in my pain for years and years and years. I can say this stuff because of all the damn work I have done to get myself from face down in the mud to at least standing. I might still be a little bit dirty, but see my eyes.
I feel like that too. Like I've been in my misery of being overweight and having endo and depression, and like I've just been in it for so long that like when you finally start to change your mind and you're starting to claw yourself out of that misery, it's kind of weird. And you feel strange, like you're trying to make these changes, you need to make changes to better your life, to extend your life, or whatever it is, but it's so hard to make changes when you've been in your rut for so long. But it's okay. You can make changes, little changes.
Yes, absolutely. I'm so glad you brought that up, because we haven't announced this yet, but here pretty soon during some of these episodes in the coming, let's say, month or so, we're actually going to be digging into all the stuff Kristen just shared, because I'm going to take her through some coaching sessions so we can unravel some of those layers, and we can just like explore what's there. And she is willing to kind of unravel that and also share that with you for your benefit, just in case you feel even more understood and connected and even inspired, if you do want to make changes for yourself, or if you just want to hear those depths and levels of what we all go through as humans, really. I mean, a lot of these things that we're talking about is not always endo related. Like sometimes it's just being a woman and being human and being, health issues and dealing with anxiety and depression and all these things. So, and then endo exacerbates all of it and like blows it up or makes it even more crippling. And so one of our reasons for we're going to do 3 sessions, and we want to do these to help share those inner workings so that we can create more and more of a foundation for strength versus it being so crumbling or crippling, I guess is the word. So yeah, you're right. It can feel so hard to make changes, and you are totally right about it can also be teeny tiny steps. And we can just celebrate all those teeny tiny steps, and those celebrations and those little victories lead to more and more victories. And it's really such an amazing process. I'm excited about us doing that, a little bit.
Me too.
It'll be fun. So we covered, I know this last little thing I definitely want to touch on. So we talked about recognizing that it's normal to feel totally out of control, totally miserable, why me, and all of that. Like, it's so normal to have the fear of missing out. And then we talked about giving ourselves space to really just feel it and express it so that we can process it and get it out of the system, so it's not bottled up and buried inside of us somewhere, so that it just stacks and stacks and stacks, and then our brains explode one day. And then the third thing was, once you let yourself process it, then going back and considering, okay, what experience am I going for? Allowing yourself to have a solution mindset and be willing to explore how you can bring the experiences into your life that you want right now, because your life is happening right now. So the last thing I do want to touch on is the idea of compare and despair. So one of the things you mentioned, Kristen, was a lot of times we see all this stuff on social media. We see all these things people are doing. So we see other women who maybe look a certain way, or they're doing certain things, or people who don't have a chronic illness and what their life looks like, which, by the way, I don't think anybody's life on social media, like, you don't see everything. So
Yeah.
even those perfect lives, unless somebody's being super authentic, because normally really authentic people will be like totally real and say, hey, here was my breakdown today, because they're trying. But even those people who are super authentic, like, you don't see everything. So keep that in mind. But compare and despair is a way, it's like the ticket, it's like the golden ticket. It's the Willy Wonka ticket to staying stuck. We're all on our own journey, and we all have different experiences. And so ways that we often compare and despair is we might look at something and go, yeah, but that didn't work for me because I tried it for 0.2 seconds and it just didn't work. Or we're like, oh, I wish I had her life or his life, or I wish I looked this way or that way, or I'm too much of this, I should be more like that. And we're comparing ourselves to other people in other situations and despairing about it. Again, creating this hamster wheel of just shit, really. I mean, it's a shitty hamster wheel. And, you know, it's a thief of joy. I've heard somebody put it that way, a thief of joy. And that's so true. So one of the fastest ways to allow ourselves to begin to shift, because this, by the way, we're so used to it, especially for the women. Like, women are used to it because we are like conditioned that way. It's like competition, right? To be the skinniest, or to have the best eyelashes, or to be the strongest, or to be the smartest, or whatever it is. We got to try to be the best at that thing, you know? And I found so much more support and power around empowering others and empowering myself. But the key to interrupting the compare and despair cycle is gratitude, truly, and focusing on what can I express gratitude for today. I normally try to do 5 things in the morning and 5 things in the evening. So much so that my brain is like wired that way now. When I wake up in the morning, I'm normally saying like thank you before any sort of coherent thought is in my head. Like, I've got one eye open, my husband's trying to kiss me goodbye. And if he says I love you and I say I love you back, he makes a funny Scooby-Doo voice at me because he's like, what? You know, and I'm not going to try to do the voice that he does, but because I'm not really a morning person. But even though I might not yet be ready to vocalize a sentence, my brain is already finding things to be grateful for. And it might be, I have a box fan, sheets. I like the way this pillow feels on my face. I love that I can see out of my eyeballs. that's cool. You know, whatever. Yeah. Or the way that like my dog will, how he lays in bed with us and his little hind paws will be like draped over my leg. And I think it's sweet. So like I wake up and when I can feel that, like feel his little legs over my legs, I'm like, oh, that's so precious. So just little things. This doesn't have to be fantastical or amazing. It can be teeny tiny things because you have something that somebody else would like kill for. Maybe not literally, but at least figuratively. You do, whether it's electricity in your house or running water or you have a flushing toilet, there are people who don't have flushing toilets, or you have internet or a smartphone or whatever. You have things like maybe a roof over your head. Like when I can't figure anything else out, I'm like, I am so freaking glad I have got plumbing in my house. Because what if I had to go outside to an outhouse or what? Yeah. So can we just all get in agreement that there's something to be grateful for? If we focus on that and just do that a little bit at a time, it gets easier. So I won't go way off, but that's the key to the compare and despair. That's another key to solution mindset as well. Yeah. Kristen, before we close out, is there anything else you wanted to add in?
I just want to add that your feelings are your feelings and they are valid. No matter what you're feeling, it's valid. Even if someone says it's not and you shouldn't feel that way, get over it, move on.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that you mentioned that because getting over it doesn't mean like we never feel it again. It just means that we let it out. We had diarrhea of the mouth or of the hymn by writing feverishly or punch the punching bag like we talked about earlier or a pillow, whatever, that we just got it out and we made an executive decision. All right, I let myself express this. Now I'm ready to shift my energy into something else. But it doesn't mean that you're like awful if it comes back, even in the same day. Totally okay. Your feelings are valid. Yes. Or if it's like you ended that day great, but the next day was a little tougher, totally fine. That means you're congratulations, you're human. That's pretty much it. We're all a work in progress, and we get to be perfectly imperfect. We get to be a masterpiece and a work in progress. We get to be both. So yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up because it is so true. So we will end on that note, and we love you guys. We're so glad that you were here with us. Let us know if this was useful for you. And as always, please, please, please don't hesitate to reach out to us with topics that you would love to hear us cover. So you can find Kristen at endometriosisandme.com. There's connections. It's like a hub for all the different things. You can find Real Talk there. You can find the Facebook presence there as well, as far as Endometriosis and Me, the page, the group, and Endometriosis and Me Unleashed. So tons of goodies across all of that. So much support there. And then if you're looking for me, Kenny Rochelle Coaching on Facebook. You can also always just send me a friend request to my regular page, Kenny King. That is Kenny with an I, by the way, for those of you who haven't met me yet. So it's Kenni. And so, yeah, I'm on all of the platforms as well. So don't hesitate. Send us a message if there's something you want to learn more about or just want to hear us discuss and chat about or vent about or gripe about. We'll do it. We will do it. We'll be happy to. So we love you guys, and we will see you next week.